Orgasmic enlightenment, where the sexual and spiritual come together. I'm Kim Anami, and I'm a holistic sex and relationship coach and a vaginal weightlifter. In this show, we explore all things intimate. I believe that our sexual energy is life force, creative energy, and we can use it to shape our worlds, strengthen our relationships, and self-actualize. I blend the most avant-garde information from neuroscience, ancient sexual practices like Tantra and Taoism, to renegade wellness modalities to show you how to create gourmet sex in your lives. Come one, come all. Coming off HRT with Vaginal Kung Fu. These kinds of stories are my favorite. The ones that showcase the direct impact that being well fucked, awakening your vagina, and activating your sexual energy has on your life. Milena had PCOS and was experiencing peri-menopause symptoms in her 30s. And I always have to say it in that mocking voice because I don't take these things seriously. I believe that they are largely programmed into women. She was, of course, bombarded with the allopathic narrative of there is no cure for you. All you can do is learn to manage your symptoms with drugs forever. No, thank you. I will pass on the snake oil. She found my work and dared to believe that she could heal herself, or more accurately, that her vagina could heal her. And it did. Women starting at puberty are told that the only remedy they have for everything from acne to painful periods to hot flashes in their 40s and 50s is to take hormones, not ever to learn the root cause of whatever it is that might be imbalancing their own hormones. No, we would never do that, but instead foster a lifelong dependency and a belief that women are hapless victims to their own scary and impossible to manage biology. Not my narrative, not my reality. I prefer the ideology and practice that I am in control. I am deeply connected to my body and it guides me. I listen to it and it supports me. As Milena says in this episode, if we are at war with our bodies, it's because we started the fight. I went through my life with easy periods. They became psychedelic portals for me, times of altered consciousness when I could easily access other dimensions. That is what they are supposed to be. I did have intense PMS for a few years, like wanted to kill myself, really mood plummet kind of PMS for 2 weeks out of the month. And then I became well fucked. I did a deep dive into my own sexual shadow. I learned to surrender at the deepest levels of my being. The PMS went away and never came back. Apparently, I have been through menopause, but I wouldn't know it because I haven't had any kind of the laundry list of symptoms that we are told accompanies this time of a woman's life. Not a single one. The only thing that is different is that I don't have a monthly bleed anymore. And even that, I consciously stopped a few years ago because I was pretty sure I wasn't going to have any more children. Prior to that, I consciously controlled how often I would have my monthly cycle. I extended it from what for me was a very regular every 28 days, and then I expanded that out to every 3 months, and then to every 6 months, using Taoist Qigong techniques that I teach in my Vaginal Kung Fu salon. We are told that this is not in our control, but it is. So much of what we understand to be true or feel victimized by is sheer programming and brainwashing. Or we haven't learned the right kinds of techniques or practices to connect to these different modes of energy within our bodies and our beings. In Anami land, we recognize that our bodies are holographic, moment to moment reflections of our states of consciousness. In our All Star interview today, Milena shares how she evaporated an excruciating UTI in minutes by understanding the root cause of the discontent in her mind and emotions that was registering in her body as a painful infection. She also shares how she went off of HRT and even any herbal remedies to deal with her PCOS and her early onset whatever whatever that means these days. I think they're telling women it starts in their 30s now, her quote unquote peri-menopause symptoms. This is life in Anami land, harnessing your own power to heal, moving from victim to victor in your own hero's journey. Well fucked all stars. Welcome, Milena.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for having me, Kim.
I'm so excited to talk to you about all these amazing shifts that you've had. So, why don't we start with what prompted you to engage in this work to begin with?
I have followed you, I think, since the beginning of people having Instagram, if I remember correctly, but it was always just like in the background. And I think it was 2023. Out of a sudden, I just get all the stuff and you're there. And I was like, oh wow, this lady really's got it figured out. I like how she talks. I like how she is no BS, right? Gets straight to the point. And I started devouring your free content. I mean, from the first episode to the very last within, I don't know, less than 6 months. It was just, I was just listening to 2 podcasts a day at least. And then I said, I found so many changes already with just the free content that I thought, what happens if I do like a salon with her? What's going to happen then? I couldn't even imagine where this is going to get me. And I finally told my spouse, I said, look, I'm going to do this. And she only does this once a year. And I have to do this now because I don't want to wait another year. So I signed up with the first salon of the year, Vaginal Kung Fu. And the rest is history.
I love it. So, one of the things that you shared that was huge that I love that you're an illustration of is going off of hormone therapy for quote unquote menopause. And I say it that way because I have such skepticism about the way menopause is framed in our culture as this illness, as like a death sentence that all women are inevitably marching towards, and that the only remedy, the only thing that will save you, apart from maybe working out and some higher protein, is hormone therapy, right? And so tell me how that shit, like where you were, what your experience was with that, and then how things shifted getting into this work.
Yeah. So being someone who has PCOS, my hormones were never quite where they are quote unquote supposed to be, right? So I started perimenopause, if you want to call it that, whatever the diagnosis is, pretty early in my mid 30s. And there was concern about my cycle and it being too long, even though my cycle has always been a lot longer. So I didn't even see the concern in that. But then the sleep started getting weird. The hot flashes started. So I really did have those typical symptoms that people talk about. Um, and progesterone cream was the first thing that was recommended to me. There was every doctor told me a different thing on how to take it. To this day, I don't even know what the right thing is. And that it really bothered me. And there was a lot of gaslighting with doctors until I found an osteopath who was just, a little bit more of the holistic route. And then I found you and I found your podcast. And I'm very inclined to Paleolithic stuff, back to basic, back to nature,
Right.
just live in harmony, right? And I thought to myself, yeah, Kim's right. If I go into the jungle and I find a tribe, I'm going to ask that woman, hey, do you have menopause? Because they're going to
Or
probably
where's
look
the
at you.
HRT?
Or
Where can I get my HRT? Who do you get your HRT from? Does the shaman make HRT for you guys or what? Like,
And the answer would probably be like, oh, you mean the wise woman that sits over there? That's like the queen of the tribe? No, she does not have a patch on her back, you know? So I thought, this is just so much programming and I need to get out of this. And so the only thing I still had was the cream, and I was tinkering with that, and then a lot of natural crutches. So I had a lot of herbal stuff around in the house that was supposed to be supportive of this and that I was taking. And when I took your salon, I was like, I'm completely going to detox from all of this stuff. This is not how this is supposed to work. I'm supposed to take care of myself, respect myself, and being well fucked, how you say, right? And the problems are going to go away. And long and behold, they did. And I stopped taking all of this other stuff, and I have no more PMS. I don't even know when other women are telling me about, oh, it's awful, I'm cramping and I get so irritable. And I'm over here like, yeah, no, I don't have that anymore. It's not painful for me. I rest because of you. That's another thing I had to unlearn, right? The first 2 days are complete rest days and they are there for creative work and all that stuff, but I'm not, um, I don't need a crutch. I don't need to take herbs or painkillers or anything like this. My hot flashes went away. Sleep totally changed. Irritability isn't a thing unless I have Fuke. Yes, that happens. And now my husband is like, "Do you have Fuke? Like when is the last time?" That is the only remedy that is there in the house. Is having alone time with each other, and it solves all the problems. So I really don't have any of these regular symptoms anymore that other women talk about when they have perimenopause or menopause. And I'm in my 40s now, and according to the doctors, I should be now in full blown menopause. But I'm not. And I even had blood drawn to check again for some hormone levels. And it was a doctor who was, because my doctor was on maternity leave, so it was somebody else. And she's like, no, you are not supposed to take progesterone cream anymore. You're totally fine. You don't need any of that. So even the Western medicine doctor said, nah, there's no indicator in your hormone level that tells me that you need anything. So I threw it all in the garbage.
So even the Western tests validated how you felt inwardly, is that
Mm-hmm.
things leveled out, balanced out, your hormones seemed like they were in a positive, upholding place. And then that gets affirmed through these tests. I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even with the PCOS, I always had higher testosterone because that's a side effect of it. I don't have that anymore. It's gone. It's a normal level for a female body. So
So how did you then, so you were I mean, how would you describe your sex life then before? So during the times of having these symptoms and experiences, and then you take on the VKF work, and we'll talk more about how that looked for you. But then obviously there was a change, right? So how would you describe the sex life and your relationship to your sexuality before, which would have been in the midst of having all of these symptoms, right? These
mm,
expressions from the body, and then getting to a place where you didn't have them, and how did this shift look in terms of your sexuality?
yeah, libido was definitely low, and I'm not sure if it was connected to quote unquote menopause because it had been low for probably 2 decades before. It has always been pretty on the lower side.
So
Now,
did you just curious, did you
mhm,
consider yourself to be a low libido person? Like you're just one
yes,
of those people who
yep,
doesn't really need sex or want sex that much, and that's
mhm,
just yeah.
100%. I didn't know what the grace was all about. It's like it's not that great. I don't know. And then, having an orgasm through just intercourse, that was not a thing. I was like, so I don't know. And then, all these ladies, even when we had these parties where, ladies were, I don't know, wanting to buy dildos or whatnot. I was like, I don't even know why y'all want this. I'm like, I thought I'm weird. I'm like, okay, I'm just not a sexual being. That's really what I thought.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
And only through the work in the salon, and I think that was week half, was it that I came through the journaling and all that stuff. I came to the point of, oh, I thought sex had to be performative. Right. I'm doing a performance. This is not for me. This is to pleasure my partner. And that had been since my very first boyfriend ever. That was in my head. So unraveling all of that, long and behold, come to find out, I was wrong, very wrong. I am a very sexual being and I have a very high libido. And it just had to be, I don't know, seen and resurrected and, getting digging out of all that trauma and whatever you want to call it. Um, so actually now that I'm in my age where people say, "Oh, this is where your libido is going to go lower," right? I'm like, "Oh no, oh no, my husband can't keep up with me. There's no such thing. Absolutely not." So it's almost like I completely flipped from I am now feeling like I'm in my 20s and not like I'm in my 40s.
I love that. So you talked about then this idea of like clear, like the work that you did to get to this place. And earlier when we were speaking, you used the word excavate, and you said that was a real touchstone mantra word for you. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, that's my favorite word that you have used because it really, I deeply, deeply feel exactly that word so much. You mentioned that a lot in your work about excavating through the programming that you might have and the trauma. And here's the thing, I come into your work and I'm thinking to myself, it's going to be easy. I don't have any trauma, right? I was never raped. I never had any abuse happening to me. So that's going to be easy peasy. Oh, totally wrong. No, 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 no. Everybody has something that they have. And it doesn't have to be one of those drastic things, but that doesn't mean you don't need to work through a lot of stuff. So I realized how much stuff there was. And I really did, like I told you earlier, it felt like I am the Mediterranean Sea and we're excavating with big, heavy machinery to find Atlantis. And that really was what it felt like. I could physically feel inside of my heart there is something that I need to bring out, and I have to dig through all of these layers and years and decades of negative thinking, negative self-talk, programming, trauma, whatever experiences that, left their mark. And it was just layer after layer after layer. And the thing is, too, when I did the salon with you, I thought it's going to be this nice, even upward. Oh no, 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 it's not an upward scale. It's going like this. You're on a high and you think like, yeah, I'm through, I got it. And then, ooh, you found another block and you're like, oh, and you're like a week or two completely working on that one block that you just discovered because you just took another layer. You went down another layer of excavation in this whole thing of the Mediterranean Sea, and that wasn't always fun, but it felt liberating. It was so incredibly liberating to not only know that these things are not a part of me, they are not me, they don't make me, I can get rid of them, and then discovering my true self underneath all those layers and my potential and my real, like I said, I am actually, wow, I'm a sexual being and I actually have a very high libido, and there's all these other ailments that are not making me as a person. And that really was only because I did the salon. Like all your free stuff was already life changing, but the salon really went so deep into those layers and to cleanse. It was like a cleanse to get all of this out. And I was very dedicated to that work once I figured this out. So I did the things, even the stuff where I thought, I'm not really a fan of journaling, but then I'm like, okay, I guess I'll do it. And now journaling's like my favorite thing ever because and some people like me, I need prompts, right? And it was just the perfect prompts to really question beliefs that were not my beliefs, that were not my own, and get rid of it that way. And all the healing modalities and all the things where you think, oh, maybe this is going to work. And then you sit there and you have like a complete sobbing crying spell for like an hour, and you cleanse yourself with that, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. This has never happened in therapy. That has never happened with any meds or herbs or whatever other meditation. Or, and I have done a lot of things. Okay. I'm very open-minded, but your work it completely knocked it out of the park.
So I love hearing all of that. What do you think the difference was then in this work versus other things that you tried?
I think, first of all, it was the combination of things. I think, I don't, you're a genius. I really don't know. However, you came up with the stuff, it is the combination of the things and how you put them together. The journaling questions alone are so profound, and they are the perfect questions to get to bottom of things. I have never seen anything like it. The healing modalities, the meditations, all of the things that are in the salon that really build on top of each other, they have to all be. However, you cannot pick and choose. You cannot sit there and go, oh, yeah, this meditation, I like this. I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to do the other five. That's not going to work. You have to do all of them. They flow together, and then they work together. Like yoni massage for me was a huge deal. To The issue is in the tissue, and really I had trauma stored in certain parts of my genitals that only then, I mean, complete burst out in tears, not knowing, not because there was pain, but because there was something lodged in there that needed to come out. And then memories came with it. So I knew what it was. And then I said, okay, I need to write this down and I need to work through. The only way out is through. The only way out is through. I have to work through this. And then I would tell my husband all these things that made me crying. And he's like, okay, well, thank you for telling me this. And how do you feel now? And there's actually, I have a story for you. We went on vacation, came back, and I had a raging UTI. And it was right at the tail end of the BKF. I was like, this is insane. Where is this coming from? And it's so bad. I'm urinating blood at this point, right? So I'm like, I usually do this on my own with like my herbal remedies, but this time I was like, okay, I think I need a prescription for antibiotics. Got the prescription, and I said to my husband, I think I know what this is. There was some memories coming up, and there was some trauma coming up, and I didn't work through it correctly with like journaling and talking about it and all that stuff. I said, I think it's stuck. And I sat him down, and mind you, I am urinating blood at this point. I'm in major pain. I sit him down and I tell him all of this stuff about all of these past experiences that I think are causing this. And he's like, okay. And there's tears, and about 2 hours later, there is no more blood in my urine. I'm completely pain free, and I haven't even taken one antibiotic. My husband picked it up. He picked up the prescription and said, well, now you can choose what you do with it. But I said, it's gone. I mean, I cannot make this up. I cannot hallucinate that I'm urinating blood chunks in the toilet, and I'm showing him this, and he's like, oh my God, so he is my witness. It's not like that, you know, psychologically like envisioned the pain or something. No. And it was just that trauma that was stuck and that was causing this. And I had to get it out of my body in order to be cured. It was insane.
That's beautiful. And I love that you then, after doing this work, had that perspective to ask inwardly, okay, what's going on? What is my body trying to tell me? Rather than just thinking, oh, here's that thing that I get sometimes. I take these medicines and then essentially suppress, right? Like, because
Mhm.
these called medicines are just pushing the symptoms, pushing the memories, pushing the experiences back down into the tissues. And so we
Yeah.
think that we've healed we might think we've healed, right? Or at least we fixed the symptoms in the moment, but we haven't gotten to the core issue. And when you talk about the difference, and what I would see the difference in my work is that I'm committed to helping people get to the core issue, the belief that there is always a core issue, an injury, a trauma that's the precursor to any of these difficult or painful symptom expressions. And I don't let people off the hook, right? And so that's the thing, if you're a wellness warrior, right, is that your commitment has to be there is a solution, there is an answer, it's up to me to find it, rather than, oh, I can take this medicine suppressant, even if it's on the quote unquote more natural side, right? It's still having the activity of suppression, usually, right? And so, like, I use herbs as well, but in acute situations, but I'm also like, I'm really committed to, like, I don't take painkillers, right? Like, I'm really committed to, if there's pain, I want to open up to it and see what it has to say to me, you know? And so I love that you were able to do that and have this immediate transformation where the holograph of your body registered that shift so quickly and profoundly. That's amazing work.
Yeah. It was so almost supernatural. I mean, it was crazy how it immediately just switched off afterwards. And but it really is important that when you do the salon, you have to do, again, you have to do the work. You cannot do half the work. You cannot do cherry picking. You have to do it in its entirety because that is what it's designed to do. It everything is working together. And when I talked sometimes to my fellow VKF ladies, and there was somebody that said, yeah, I'm not seeing the results that I want. I said, okay, have you done this, 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 this? And usually there would be a couple of no's in there. And I said, no, you cannot skip those things. You cannot skip the healing modalities. You cannot skip the meetings. You cannot skip all these things. You have to do them. Um, and I said, once you do them, then reflect back on, did you miss something? Did you really go all the way? Because you have to. I mean, I was during this time, I was breathing and living Kim Anami from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. And I think even in my dream state, it was probably there. It was, I always had something in my ear. I always listened to something. I always did everything, the instructions we got. I even made a spreadsheet. And I remember that people asked me, can I have your spreadsheet? I was like, yes, because I would click, but I told people, I said, look, I will share the spreadsheet with you, but don't just go through the motion. So you want to do your little check mark on it. You really have to get into it. Don't do it like half-ass here. Okay. You have to get into it. And that was very helpful. And I still use that to this day. To this day, I will do my massages. I will do my exercises. Is what I call them, the egg exercise, right? Even my kids are like, oh yeah, you do your egg exercise. They think it's funny. Um, Sometimes my husband wants to have people in our bedroom to show them something that's in the closet or whatnot. I'm like, my egg is like right there charging, right? So just giving you a heads up that if somebody asks when they get in there, like, what's this? You can be like, oh yeah, this is for my my, my wife's exercises. But and I tell everybody about it too. I learned so much from you and even the people you connect in your salons. It's like you can heal almost everything with this stuff. You don't need to pop pills the entire time. And the whole menopause thing, a lot of my friends ask me, like, what do you do? Like, what do you mean you don't have any symptoms? I'm like, come over here. Let me talk to you about that. Let me tell you how you can become a well-fucked woman.
Amazing. So you mentioned before that you looked at sex performatively,
Mhm.
right? And so how did that change? Because most women, I always say, have numb vaginas, right? And so when you try to then entice them into sex, they're like, well, why would I? Like, I don't even feel anything. Even if they're not fully conscious, that would be their experience is like the vagina is numb. It's not really generating much pleasure. It's like, okay, I'm facilitating this for my husband. And then maybe I get a clitoral orgasm at some point, but they're not thoroughly enjoying and getting the depth of what I talk about are some of the biggest transformational tools for women, which are vaginal orgasms, right? So
Mhm.
G-spots, cervical orgasms, these are the orgasms where that deep transformation happens. And they're really one of the most important tools that women have access to. And again, free, right? Right here in our
Yep.
bodies. So tell me about the evolution from like numb vagina, clitoral orgasms into full-blown, life-changing vaginal orgasms.
Yeah. Um, I am very passionate about this now. And when somebody tells me that, oh yeah, it's just a clitoris and just clitoral, I get angry. I get so angry because I know, just tell me you're underfucked without telling me you're underfucked. Um, so performative has always been the way because what I got is even as a teenager in my head was, well, you need to be good in bed. And I didn't even know what that meant, right? As a woman, what does that mean? As a man, it's kind of easier to wrap your head around that. And then I just got stuck in there. I really got stuck in there to make sure my partner has pleasure and I'm not that important. And there was only maybe the whole manual stimulation of the clitoris was the only thing that was otherwise there to have pleasure. I am very, very blessed to have a husband who is extremely dedicated to that. I am actually happy and have pleasure and not just him. But before him, I didn't have that. I never had someone who did this, but also I didn't know better. So it was kind of like, and it, transforming that really was again, it was different layers of your program. So once you do it physically, which was through the egg, through the yoni massages, I think that the yoni massages were really one of the most important one for to have the physical change, just because that trauma that was in there, the issue in the tissue was the one that was numbing everything, which makes sense because we don't want to feel pain. So it's better to numb everything so we don't feel that trauma, right? That needed to come out. However, mentally, that was a very big chunk because right when you started talking about surrender, I was like, that's going to be rough. That's going to be so hard. That's going to be so hard. And this whole yin yang thing was very, very hard for me. I was very much in my masculine. I was a total control freak. I mean, control freak was my middle name, really, it was a nickname that people gave me. People always said, oh, yeah, she's like super go with the flow as long as everything's going her way. So I knew that was a big boulder for me in that Kimonami way that I had to face, and I really had to focus on that a lot. So everything that was focused around letting go, surrender yourself, surrender to your partner, surrender to the moment, all of that stuff. I think I tripled down on that, on those homework stuff, because I knew that's going to be very, very difficult for me. Long and behold, doing the work again, I finally was able to let go and to almost like, I think what you said was create that void. So when I step back, I create a void and he steps in. And that's totally, our whole dynamic changed. I mean, it was magical. Even people around us said, you two are like two teenagers all over each other the entire time. And he's such a gentleman with you. And you're so soft with him. And it's like, yeah, I went from always be like, control, control to flowy, flowy, flowy. Everything is okay. I'm flowing. And I knew when I was younger, I was very much flowing. And then when I grew up, I turned into that, maybe out of necessity. I don't know about that hard, young energy kind of not really female, right? And that right there was a huge awakening of my vagina. Just to let her be that beautiful flower that she is, you know? And I remember yoni gazing. I was like, that's easy for me. I've always had a mirror down there. I was so curious as a child, even. I was like, yeah, I want to know what this looks like, you know? So that wasn't strange for me. But to actually gaze at her and talk to her and tell her she's beautiful and that I love her, um, that was like you're telling yourself that you love yourself in a way more intimate way. So when you combine all these layers between the physical work on your body and then the mental work to clear your mind of all that what's getting you stuck, that's when everything starts to wake up. And that's when, I mean, the end goal was always a cervical orgasm, right? Because everybody says it's the holy grail.
Well,
And I
I
remember,
say that. I have been
right?
saying decades, and now people are talking about it suddenly, and there's still naysayers out there saying, oh,
Yeah,
that doesn't exist. They're all clitoral orgasms. And then now a few people have come over to be like, okay, cervical orgasms. No one said this,
yeah,
10, 20, 30 years ago. So anyway,
yeah,
I say the Holy Grail. Other people are now echoing that.
yeah. When we moved to the US, my first American gynecologist, I will never forget that. She said, and I quote, "Oh, you don't have any nerve endings in your cervix." No, I'm like, I beg to differ. And G spot and all these other zones out of a sudden that I was like, whoa, what's this? Put your finger back there. What is this? I mean, it was like treasure hunting almost in there, you know? And now there was squirting involved. And yeah, for everybody who says it's pee, by the way, it's not pee. Please don't say that.
Tell
Um,
me you've never squirted before without telling me.
yeah, or made your woman squirt before, without telling me you didn't.
Yeah.
And we had to get one of those waterproof blankets because it was just, I mean, at first it was a little, and my husband got all excited, of course. He feels so accomplished. He's so happy, right? Oh my God, she squirted. And then I think a couple of months later, it went across the bed. And he was like, whoa, there's always another level to go. Kiminami was right. I'm like, yeah, it's like we're gonna make it one day that it's across the room. Um, but it just didn't stop evolving. It just does not stop evolving. And at first it took, I don't know, maybe 40 minutes to get there, maybe 30 minutes to get there. Now it's like 15 maybe, to get to this full body trembling. I don't remember my name. I was joking the other day. I said, I don't understand the noises that are coming out of me. I have never heard those before. It's like an opera singer's in the room. Um, and it's just a beautiful thing that we went from numb vagina to there's not a nook and cranny in there that's not awake, but it did take the work to get there, the physical and the mental work to get there.
Beautiful. I love it. Squirting across the bed and the room, all things normal in Anami land. So tell me about your wetness then, lubrication, because another big so-called symptom in these years for women, and some women their entire lives, is they think they need, because it's been normalized, right? This idea of needing a bottle of lube to have sex. And so what happened for you there in terms of your lubrication?
It went from the Sahara Desert to some major waterfalls. I mean, it's a night and day difference. But I think also that has something to do with that constant simmer that we have with each other. It doesn't really never go away. I'm never at a point where I say, yeah, no, I don't want to have sex right now. There is oh, let's work on the simmer a little bit more, maybe, but it's never zero. It is never zero. And therefore, my lubrication is never zero. There is no pain. There is no dryness. There is no anything weird. Like some people say, well, intercourse is painful when you're in menopause. No, it's not. it shouldn't be, because there the only time the wetness changes is when I'm ovulating, when it's just the texture just changes a little bit. But other than that, it's always well moisturized. Let's just call it that, right? There's no, and I mean, it is very easy to get it to the point where it is just gushing. I mean, even my husband is like, it's Niagara Falls down there again, I don't have to do much. And it's like, ta-da, there it is. So and that wasn't the case before. We had lube. We still have lube, but now we use lube for other things and not that, because
Where
we
we
don't need
don't
it.
naturally lubricate.
Right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right.
For anyone who hasn't got that, we're talking about anal sex.
Which is funny because when I obviously I recommend you to my closest friends, right? And when they're like, "Oh yeah, anal, no, that's not for me," I was like, "Yeah, do Kimanami and then talk to me again in like 2 weeks and tell me again that's not for you."
So, for anyone listening, the idea of the constant simmer, this is in the Anami vocabulary, which means that you've got this perpetual hum of attraction and erotic energy between you. It never drops down to a zero, right? I say people ideally are simmering at a 7 to 10, meaning there's always this sense of attraction between you that you could just drop trow, as they say, and get into it because you're already warmed up. You're so connected. And I'd say that's connection to the self, right? Because you have to have
Mhm.
that clarity within and then connection with your partner that not and I'm all about extended foreplay, but it becomes less essential because you're already living in this simmer. You're living in a constant state of foreplay with each other. That becomes your default setting. So okay, you've got this perpetual wetness, you can slide easily into this connection. And then you mentioned before having so that whole sense of flow, because I think about the
Mhm.
the lubrication flow and the orgasmic flow being really epitomes of feminine epicenter expression. So how did that look in your outer life, where you say that you were exhibiting more masculine qualities? How did that connection with these feminine organs, your feminine essence, how did that then begin to look on the outside and how you were in your day-to-day life?
Yeah. I think the most hard part for me was, and that was actually part of your salon, well, if I don't have control, who does? How can I give this up, right? And then learning, well, first of all, you have yourself. You'll always have your back. You have the universe or God or whatever you call it, that has your back. And you also, if you have a partner, they have your back as well. So there is, it's not like just falling into the ethers. And I had to really give it up to that. And I am very spiritual and religious at the same time. Not everybody can put those two together, but I do. And I said, I have no reason when I'm looking back at my life and what God has done for me, there is no reason for me to doubt or to hesitate or to not trust. Why do I do that? Is kind of cruel from my side to not trust when there has been so much evidence that I'm not going to let you fall ever. I have never done it. Why would I do it now? So when it starts with the little things, you sit in traffic. And I would get really worked up about this person in front of me not going. And now it's like, if they're not going, there's a reason for it. I'm not supposed to be on that next road. This is probably protecting me from something, right? To when now we go somewhere, which again is this hour dynamic as well, but we go somewhere, we go on a date. I'm probably not even going to ask him where we go because he's like, no, we're going to leave here at 4:30 and we're going to go to a restaurant and I don't know where we're going. Sometimes I asked him, what should I wear? And he tells me what to wear. And it's beautiful. I can't, because it's the most, I am so, sometimes I grieve, Kim, really. I grieve the time where I didn't do this because the energy I wasted of being in control of worrying about everything. And now I can just, it feels like I just shut off my brain and I just flow and I just go and I just do what I I'm being told to do. And it's a beautiful thing and everything works out fantastic. And that things come to me easier. Like I don't have to hustle for it so much anymore. And I feel that when I start to get into my head and I go out of my flow and I go into that rigidness, I create blocks for myself. Things start to not work anymore. Things go wrong. Technology doesn't work. But as soon as I give it up to the greater power, I was like, yep, whatever happens, happens. Things work just fine. I mean, it's funny, well lubed, right? They're like everything is well oiled and just works like in a clockwork because I'm letting go. I'm letting things happen the way they're supposed to happen. And that did take a lot of effort. But once you're in that flow, it is easier to stay in it than to get out of it. You have to psych yourself out of that flow, really. That
Or
thing,
become underfucked. Like I would say that
yes.
one of the biggest therapeutic benefits of the deeper vaginal orgasms is that in those moments you have to really open yourself and surrender.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you practice doing that, it's like training. And then you go out into your day-to-day life and it becomes easier to just, you get faced with an obstacle and you either get on your armor to fight, or you're like, oh, there's another way I can relax and open and let go and let that divine flow start shaping in my life, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's why they're so essential for women. It helps us tap into that feminine energy and way of living so much easier, becomes second nature.
Yeah. Even with my children, I have teenagers, and I started saying way more, yes. Okay. Yeah, sure. Right. And then we have all these cool experiences together that would have not happened if I would have said, no, I don't want to do that right now. I'm tired. Or no, no, that's too much money. Or no, that's too late or whatever. And now I'm like, yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Everything is yes. And that's the other thing. Money, I still can't wrap my head around it. It just keeps coming in, you know? And every time I want to be like, what about the budget? I'm like, no, no, we flow. There's always going to be enough. There's always going to be enough, right? And then there's a check in the mail out of nowhere. And it's just, and I tell my husband sometimes when, listening to those podcasts, I was like, sex and money, they're connected. So let's do something before a big decision or a big meeting or something. And it always works. It always works beautifully. It always turns out to be very beneficial for us, whatever it is that it turns out to. But it always gets us to the next level. And it's just a beautiful thing. But yeah, you cannot have G spot orgasms or cervical orgasms if you don't know how to surrender. You need to let go. You need to, because what surrender also means is you are completely vulnerable. You need to be yourself. You need to open yourself up and be fully you, right? And fully be seen by your partner. That can be really scary. But since we are doing this work and doing this with each other, it just like Anami, there's always another level to go. And we find these highs. Um, and it's a beautiful state that we live in. And I mean, our partnership has completely changed from always rubbing and to being in that yin yang and being this beautiful symbiosis of hard and soft and action and pause. And it's just very happy. We're very, very happy together. And I am happy with myself. He's happy with himself, but we're also happy together, which this is how it's supposed to be. And the sky is the limit, really, with all of this work.
So your husband and you, I love what you said about realizing, okay, we have as a tool for abundance and for activating even deeper flow and financial and opportunity flow using your sex dates, using your sex life.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about that.
Yeah. At first, and I think everybody has the same thought when they hear 3 hour sex date, the first question you have is like, what are we going to do for 3 hours? But when you take your time, time really does fly. And it's not just the sex, it's a connection. You have to have that connection with each other, and you have to have that time to just shut everything off until you really shut out the world. An hour has probably gone by, to be honest.
Yeah.
That you really, there's nothing that exists anymore but you and your partner. And yeah, we do this. I mean, there's different people say different things. Like one says it was the blowjob, the next person says, oh no, it was anal or whatnot. We're like, yeah, okay, we're just gonna try it, and whatever floats our boat that day is happening. And it just, I think it just maybe enhances that flow state too for him and for me, where then this abundance can actually find us and it can actually come to us because we're not stuck in, it's just like when people are stressed, what is it called? The nocebo effect. If somebody says, oh, this is not going to work, it's not going to work, it's not going to work, your cells harden. And I envision that when your cells are hard, when the outside of your cell is hard, nothing can come in. And that's the same thing that I see with abundance. If you're hard and you're constantly stressed and you want to be in control so much, things can't reach you. Abundance can't come to you. You can't be showered with it. But if you're open and you have your arms out and you just wait until things fall from the sky, that's when things come to you because you need to be open to it. So we try to plan it as much as we can. Sometimes we plan something real quick when something comes up that's important. And sometimes it's not 3 hours, but sometimes it's not going to be a quickie. It's going to be longer. It's a dedicated time. And we just really enjoy exploring ourselves. And again, whatever feels good that day is going to happen, but it happens with intention. It happens with integrity, and it happens with complete devotion to each other. There's not going to be sidetracking. There's not going to be a phone in the room. It is just, and it's not dinner or a movie. No, no, no. It's you and I in the bed. Of course, we set the mood a little bit around the bedroom too. That's another thing that is a sacred space. But it's that dedicated time that gets us really hardcore into that flow state then too, where we have both of us have that surrender state. And it's almost just like a refresher of, oh, remember, we're in Anami land. Here's the refresher.
Beautiful. So you had some growth in your breasts. Speaking about feminine outward expression, tell me about that.
Yeah. I have always had small breasts, and I am the only, I don't know whose genes those are. I'm the only one of my family who has small breasts, and I'm very pear-shaped. Um, and whenever I lose weight, which actually that's another side effect of Kimonami, you get very, very healthy. My breast would be the first one that would go, right? First step, that would be where I lose weight first, very sadly, for me. But with Kimonami, the opposite happened. So I would lose weight, I would get fitter, but my breasts would grow. And I thought, oh, how does that work? But then it's like what you say, you pay attention to it, you give it attention. Well, that's where growth happens. And I am religious about my breast massages. I will not let them go. To this day, they will always be part of my regimen. And I have my breast oil, and I love your breast oil, and it's amazing. And it became a routine, and there's different strokes and different things I do. But out of a sudden, I'm like, wait a minute, I have cleavage. Where is this coming from? And I would put on certain things that I had, certain clothes, and out of a sudden everything looked different on me. And even my husband said, he said, you you have that hourglass thing going on right now. You're so feminine. Your whole body is so much more feminine. I mean, he saw the changes and he sees me every day. So that was I mean, I say a cup size, but I think it might have been even more than a cup size. There's a huge difference. And the shape changed and they're very perky. And again, they don't look my age, they look very young, which is great. And it's very weird for me now, after such a long time being on this earth, to look in the mirror and see myself and be like, oh, yeah, look, I have boobs now. And no surgery, no nothing. I don't need pads or anything. Um, that feels really good. But yeah, I lost a bunch of weight with your work, just because I think it was just really letting go of that trauma that weighs down the body.
I love hearing that because yeah, I talk about that a lot, that the baggage of our unprocessed stuff that lingers on the body, and people will even have healthy lifestyle and diet and exercise, and there'll be just a certain amount of weight that stubbornly doesn't move on them. And then they do this inner work, particularly this sexual work that seems to act like this internal combustion engine, and then it just breaks down all of that stuff and it evaporates and people lose weight. And kind of like a, in opposition to the laws of what we think of as calories in, movement in, weight off, that defies that, and then the weight is gone because they moved the internal weight.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we had I don't remember, I think it was a G-spot orgasm, and it was the first time ever where I don't know what happened. It felt like this bubble is coming into my face from all the way down, and I burst out in tears. And in my conscious mind was almost turned off, but the only thought I still had in my conscious mind was, "Oh my God, I need to tell him not to stop, because if he sees that I'm crying, he's going to freak out, right?" And he's like, "Oh no," and I'm screaming at him, and it's just, I mean, it's just sobbing, but it it wasn't, it's weird because you want to label a human emotion to it, but I don't know if I can, because it wasn't just joy, it wasn't sadness, it was something totally into a realm that I can't really put into words. And the next day I was 4 pounds lighter. I mean, who loses 4 pounds overnight, right? And I was like, that was cathartic, and that was something that we just dislodged and let go of, whatever it was. I don't know, I don't care, it doesn't matter what it was, but it's gone now.
I love that. Lose 4 pounds overnight via sexual catharsis. I made a parody video of that on YouTube a few years ago. Like, there's all these lose belly fat overnight videos, right? And I'm like, yeah, actually, I can do that you can do that this way through catharsis and excavation. You really can lose belly fat overnight, literally all night long working on it. So,
Mm-hmm.
is
Absolutely.
there anything else that we haven't covered that you'd like to share of your experience?
Um, I think what I really, well, first of all, I tell everybody to do your work and actually the salons. I mean, the gateway into it is, yeah, sure, go and get all the free stuff. There's so many beautiful podcast episodes out there and YouTube videos. Do it all, right? But the next level is the salons, and you have to do the work. If you do the work that you are being told in the salon, because you still have to do your homework, you will, it's out of this world. I mean, our life now versus our life, I don't know, 5 years ago, is not even close to being the same. Um, we were on the brink of divorce at one point, and now, yeah, our kids tell us all the time, "You look like two horny teenagers in the kitchen." I mean, it doesn't stop. We adore each other. We really do. And but it's also really good for yourself, even when you're single, because you start loving yourself, you start respecting your own body, and then your body works actually with you, not against you, because that's the ticker, right? Bodies only work against you. You probably started it. You probably were mean first. So that's what, your work changes so much. And I wish that everybody would know about you and would do the work with you, because holy shit, our world would be a completely different place if people would step into their own power, because that's what that is, right? no more programming, and knowing what you can do and what your body can do is absolutely amazing. And I really appreciate what you do. I mean, you changed our lives.
I'm so glad to hear that. And kudos to you, because as we've been saying, it takes a certain kind of self-discipline and dedication to really devote yourself to believe, A, that it's possible, right? Which is why I'm so loud about the Anami guarantee that everyone can. Everyone can heal themselves naturally. Everyone can hit these high level sexual experiences. So, first of all, it's just having faith that you're not the only one or some special exception to the rule. Okay, so other people can do that, but I can't. Right.
Mhm.
And then buying into the possibility that, yeah, everyone can, including me. And then, like you've said several times, showing up to do the work. And everyone's at different places in their journey in terms of, I guess, the amount of truth they want to take in, the amount of really roll up your sleeves and get into the mire, like you say, the excavation of stuff. But that's the true path to transformation. And so whenever I hear of someone having these level of transformation, I know that they've done that work, right? You're a
Mhm.
living, breathing, radiating, holographic testament of it. So well done.
Yeah. It is life changing. And like you always say, Anami means there's always going to be another level. There's always another layer to go. You're never stopping because there's the sky is the limit. It's just going to get better from there. And I am excited. I'm excited of what's to come, right? And even my husband, when he did the work, he woke up at like 5 o'clock in the morning just to do that stuff before going to work. I mean, you either you do it or you don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you guys did VKF, or you did VKF, then WFW, and then he did SMM. So you nearly had
Yes.
a full year of Anami. You got on that train and you didn't look back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. We did.
Well, thank you so much, Melina. I'm really glad to hear and share all this with everybody, and so excited for everything that you've seen happen.
Oh, thank you, Kim.
My legendary Vaginal Kung Fu salon opens for registration on January 14th. In this 10-week online salon, I have compiled the best of my 30 years of sexual and vaginal experience to take you over the edge into a lifetime of bliss. We cover everything talked about in today's episode, from yoni massage, yoni gazing, how to use the jade egg, to activating your feminine energy as the grand receiver in your life, all of which bring you into your creative and sexual genius. You will learn how to have a toned, orgasmic, and ecstatic vagina, how to channel your sexual energy into creative power, step-by-step instructions for your vaginal weightlifting practice, my guided routine for giving yourself or having your partner give you a healing and activating yoni massage, how to give your man a hand job with your vagina, and so much more vaginal wisdom and technique. Go to kimanami.com, look for Sexual Savant Salons, and then click on Vaginal Kung Fu to get on the waitlist and be notified of when we open the doors. In the meantime, you'll receive my free masterclass, Manifest Men, Money, and Miracles with Your Vagina. Thank you so much for listening. Subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and send somebody else the gift of a multi-orgasmic and transformational love life by sharing this episode with them. If you'd like to go deeper into all things orgasms, sign up for my free Orgasmopedia series, where you'll learn about 9 different types of orgasms everyone can have. Go to kimanami.com and you'll see the sign up there. Come one, come all.